Hello, and welcome to UDL in 15 minutes, where educators discuss their experiences with UDL. I'm Louie Lord Nelson, UDL author and leader. Today, I'm talking with Courtney Wiley Martin, an inclusion specialist for the Highline Public Schools outside of Seattle, Washington. Courtney is going to share how she and a PE teacher collaborated to create a universally inclusive PE course that includes learners with significant disabilities. Hi, Courtney, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today and allowing me to share my UDL story.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. So, give us a quick rundown of your background as an educator and how you were introduced to UDL.
Absolutely. So, I've worked many different roles in inclusive education, anywhere from a bachelor level SLP to an SLPA to a para and teacher, and now I'm an inclusion specialist. I was a classroom teacher for students with significant support needs. And even though I learned about universal design for learning first in graduate school, my students were the ones that pushed me to really understand what it meant. In my current role as an inclusion specialist, UDL is the backbone of everything that we do. I've come to realize that UDL is more than just offering choice, it's designing our classrooms, instruction, assignments, assessments, and even our mindsets to know what every student comes to our classrooms with is valuable, and we are there to meet them where they are and guide them towards being agents of their own learning. I feel like when I was in the classroom, by universally designing my content, it helped my students feel like because they want or need to learn in a different way, it didn't mean that they were less or othered. They were a part of the fabric of the community, and we have the tools to make it work. I like to say, instead of trying to put a square peg in a round hole, let's just get rid of the lid and provide access for all.
Yeah, that's lovely. And it's a great analogy. And then I also really appreciate where you're standing, that it's not just choice, it's not just the options, it's really looking deeply at the design and our mindsets to know that every student is welcomed and every student can learn. Okay, great. We're going to give as much time as possible for you to tell your story because I know it will be helpful to so many people. You've shared with me that your building leader heard about other schools who have fully inclusive PE and wanted that in your school. So you had the green light to start that work. Give us the background on the learners you were designing for and what your goal was and still is.
Yes, it was the first day of school. The PE teacher and I met, and the principal was like, "All right, you guys do this inclusive unified PE, go." So, my colleague, he looked at me and he was like, "So, my name is Casey. What are your strengths?" And I was like, "We don't have time for this, Casey. We got a class to run." But I really appreciated him leaning into the strengths because we came to realize he comes with the PE knowledge and those relationships with the gen ed peers, and I came with the knowledge of supporting students with significant needs and the structure of a typical adaptive PE course. So our goals was to create a course that met those adapted PE physical education goals and needs that our students with more complex plans needed, but we also wanted to meet their social needs in the course and to bridge that divide or that gap between those students who typically are self-contained and our students who are gen ed, because before this program there wasn't a lot of interaction or crossover. And we learned that in creating this unique course and this opportunity, we attracted peers that weren't only already student leaders, but peers that traditional PE didn't work for. And so they got to join our course and really shine with what we were offering them.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so working from that goal, you started to ask yourselves what barriers students might experience. So how did that question influence your design?
So We started by looking at a regular PE model and traditionally what had been done. Either the students were in their own kind of self contained PE, or they would access gen ed PE, but a lot of times they would be on the side doing their own thing with a paraprofessional. So we both, Casey and I, recognized that the way it typically wasn't working. And we came up with some of the barriers or the whys it's not successful. It's because of the numbers of students in the class. There was limited access to a lot of the physical activity. They weren't modified, and it was challenging for our kids to participate. We also had talked about other students in the class that we like to call gym class heroes. So they're
Mm,
there to
mhm,
win, they're there to compete, which is great. But in our program, that's not the nature of it. And then there was typically no intentional structure to build excuse me, no intentional structure to build community within the class. So there was no, oh, go talk to those kids in the corner. It was just like, those kids are in the corner, I'm over here.
mm.
When we, granted, we started the class on the first day of school, but when we took a step back to intentionally design to reduce those barriers, we looked at smaller class size. We wanted two gen ed peers for every student with adaptive PE needs. We planned with our student skill level and specific adaptations in mind first, and then filled in the gaps for everyone else. I it's almost like an upside down planning, because typically you plan very broadly and then narrow in. We started planning for the narrows and then built out. And then we also valued community and connection first. We told our peers, your job is to mentor, to be a friend, to know everybody's name, and to really connect. It's less about winning, it's more about the playing together. I feel like one of the things that Casey and I came to understand was that UDL is a collective approach. It's that unspoken agreement between teachers and students that says, I see you, I value you, and I want to help you learn and grow. All students felt like partners in the learning process and stakeholders, especially the gen ed peers. They were full of knowledge, and by designing in a universal way, it acknowledges not only what they brought to the table, but it allowed them to look at the table. How do we change it to make it work for everybody to have a seat at it?
Oh, this is it's just so awesome. Okay, my brain's going a million different directions, but I'm gonna stay focused and ask it again into like the nitty gritty because I just want to go like left, right, everywhere direction. Okay, so get into the nitty gritty. What was the planning time like? Who did what, and were the students involved?
Yes. So, because of the flexibility of my role, and I was only assigned to this one school, I had a lot of the freedom to do a lot of the planning. But Casey and I would meet, we would check in briefly after classes, just like, how did that go? Not so good, or that went great. Let's change it like this for tomorrow. We also would meet Fridays during his planning time, and we would loop in the physical therapist. She would meet with us as well. And then once we started building relationships with our gen ed peers, we started just casually asking them, what do you guys think about this? What do you think about that? And that turned into a group that we would meet with every other Friday, and they would help us design lessons. They would take charge of units and work on designing some more collaborative experiences and projects for their peers. Casey, the PE teacher, he was responsible for the content. I helped modify, and then we both created a curriculum for the gen ed peers in participating in this work. Additionally, we also took the time to plan with the case managers of the students, and they gave us valuable insight to our students, and we would collaborate with the paras as well.
Okay. Oh, and so this definitely sounds like it's been iterative all along. How many times have you collaboratively run the class, and I'm just curious about like, your own growth mindset. It's huge. It has to be huge. So, how did that help your design updates?
Yes, collaboratively, I ran the class for about a full year, maybe a year and a half. As we further our inclusion work, I step further and further away from the school, but the program is still running strong. So it's been going every semester for the past 4 years. Each year we get better, and we have such a good relationship with the core students that we started this program with. They'll come back and they will clown us like, "What? You guys do this now? We didn't have that." And so it's just been really reflective. Oh, okay, what if we added this? What if we took it there? We heavily rely on student input. Our students with the adaptive PE needs, they were not shy about letting us know what worked for them and what didn't in whatever way they communicated. So we got input from them, we got input from the gen ed peers, we even would talk to the paras about some of the structures. And I think because everyone was considered an equal stakeholder, we were able to create something really beautiful.
Mm, mm. Okay, so I haven't asked about barriers yet. Were there any barriers that you faced? Like in the beginning, I was like, "Yay!" Your school leader was like, "Go for it!" And then you had this awesome partner. But were there barriers? Because I bet there were.
Yes, of course, there were some barriers. I think one of the biggest ones was we were building the plane while we were flying it. We were creating this new program from scratch. So we had a lot of unknowns. Neither of us, our principal had seen it done. So he had the vision, but neither of us had seen it done. So we weren't exactly clear on what our vision was. Um,
Mm,
and I also feel like there was occasionally we would have people come in with a to help support the class, but with a lack of understanding of the class goals. So trying to get them in the right mindset. This is not a traditional PE class. These are the goals. We did
mm,
have some parent concerns. Now, most of the parents of the students with the adaptive PE needs were ecstatic. They had never seen their child interact with a gen ed peer in this way. They were like, they're so kind and supportive. And I came to pick him up, and one of his friends saw him in the hallway and was like, oh, that's my best friend. So that was really special for them to see that their child was a part of the school community. Some parents of the gen ed peers were concerned about if the students displayed adverse behaviors, what that meant for their student, if they would be safety concerns. And in the second semester of the first year, we remedied that by doing some really intensive training with our peers, talking about what behaviors could look like, what their role is, if a student they're working with is experiencing behaviors, when it's okay for them to be helpful to their peer and when it's time to step away and let the adults intervene. And our kids got really good at knowing their peers, so much so that they knew how to prevent them from experiencing things that might cause them to be upset. And they also weren't afraid of them. I think that's a big thing. A lot of times when we have big behaviors, it can be scary, but the peers just knew once they calm down, that's my friend, and we're going to go back to shooting baskets. In the beginning, for our creative ideas, we leaned a lot on books about just and articles just about peer buddy programs for the shell. And then with that collaborative teaming, we came up with new ideas and activities to implement to make it to make the class something multi-layered and rich with inclusion at the center.
yeah, now you guys need to write the article.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. We can talk
Mm.
about that later. Okay. Meeting standards. This is where so many educators have questions. And I know we're going to hit the 15 minutes. We're going to go over because this is just so meaty and good. Okay. So, meeting standards. Why? Yeah. This is where so many educators have questions.
Yes. So the standards piece was Again, one of those barriers because it was unknown. So, because it was a non traditional PE class, we still wanted the students to get that PE credit, but the PE standards didn't really reflect the expectations we had of the students. So, we were able to pull some PE standards from here, and then we created unified course standards, which were the leadership standards. And we kind of cherry picked exactly what we were looking for out of our peers. And with that, we built these unified standards. And our hope was by building these standards is we could use them in other unified courses. So our end goal is to have a unified science, a unified art, a unified this, a unified that, and then we have the standards already picked out for the students with the adaptive PE goals. They were their progress was monitored through their IEP goals. And
Mm,
then the students were aware of the standards and given rubrics with every assignment and multiple opportunities to self assess.
got it. Oof, awesome. Okay, so last question. What's happened since you started this course? You talked a little bit about that before, but it's been 4 years, and what's evolved?
Yeah, so it's definitely been just a ripple effect, not only in that school, but throughout the whole district. And it's been really amazing to see. So, just within the school, we were starting to see the kids eating lunch together, giving high fives, hanging out in the self contained classroom, which typically that never happened. As a self contained teacher, I never knew the gen ed students, and now they knew everybody. Students were taking the class over and recruiting friends and teaching their friends, this is my friend, this is how you say hello to him. We had the students do some disability exploration projects and look at accessibility of our school, and in having them take a step back and think about themselves as a learner and their access and their peers, there was a lot of, hey, how come they can't come with me to this class? We were making mini advocates. We also had the students spend time shadowing their peers in that more self contained setting. And again, we got a lot of, hey, how come they're in here all day? So I think with the the students really taking ownership and running with the work, it just showed all of our adults that the biggest barrier to inclusion is really us, the adults. We're very worried about what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. And we need to let the kids take the lead because they've got this. In year 4, we've started moving the model down to our middle schools. And that has been going really well. We had a unified track meet last year. It was the same idea, but everybody came and we participated in some track activities. And then one story that I like to share that really shows the shift in the mindset at the high school. So, the high school where we started this was one of our comprehensive high schools, huge school. And there was one student, she sang in the talent show, just so brave and unafraid, and her peers just accepted her and cheered her on, and it was beautiful, and everybody cried because it was just such a great marker of how far we had come just from starting this program. So
Oh, that's wonderful. I don't want to stop talking to you. And I think people are going to, I know people are going to be like, wait, I want more. I want more. Oh, Courtney, this is so good. This is so good. And I hope that people who have chosen to listen to this will flip over and to see all the different photos that you've sent to go along with this podcast. So for those, I'll do my little outro here in a second, but you'll know where to find the YouTube. And oh, Courtney, thank you so much for the work you're doing and creating these truly accessible, inclusive, and equitable spaces. Thank you.
yes, thank you for having me, and I could talk about this forever. So I appreciate you allowing me to share something I'm so passionate about.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, for those listening to this podcast, you can find supplemental materials like images, a transcript, and an associated blog at my website, which is the udlapproach.com/podcasts. And finally, if you have a story to share about UDL implementation for UDL in 15 minutes, you can contact me through the udlapproach.com. And thanks to everyone for your work in revolutionizing education through UDL and making it our goal to design for learner agency.